In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to stop feeding negative patterns. By this, what I'm suggesting is that you created your negative patterns. You don't know how you did it, but because you did create them, it means you can also stop creating them and actually remove them from your life. So to begin with, I just want to talk about how you created negative patterns, and then obviously we'll look at how you can begin to release them. You developed negative patterns because of the environment you were born into. If you had some difficult circumstances, you didn't have the best environment growing up, we all do it, we all adapt ourselves to where we find ourselves. Now, if you are brought up in a loving, caring, nurturing environment, you're probably not going to need to adapt or change yourself very much. If you're born into a situation which is a little bit threatening, traumatizing, negative, you will adapt yourself to fit into that environment so you feel safe, accepted, and secure. We do this unconsciously, right? That's like kind of our animalistic kind of behavior. That's our survival impulses taking over to make us survive. So we adapt to fit in. That helps us get through these difficult periods in our earlier life usually. Then when you have grown up, you've still got these patterns, okay? Now these patterns do not serve you because you're probably in different environments that are nothing like what your environment was growing up, but you still have the same patterns, the same programming. So when you were young and you were in that situation, you unconsciously just adapted to your environment. You didn't know how you did it, but you did it, okay? And now it's running on autopilot. So these patterns come up, you believe they are you, essentially, because they've probably been there so long. By you simply believing they are you are feeding into them. You are giving them energy, okay? You are following them. It's like you have a negative thought and you follow the thought, and then you're catastrophizing, you're getting anxious, you're getting worried. You're feeding into that pattern. And consciousness, awareness is energy. So you feed into the pattern, you just give that pattern energy, you keep it alive, okay? It's important you understand this. Obviously, you don't know exactly how you created it, but you created it, like I said, to adapt, to fit in. But now you're keeping it alive by just following it. So I hope you get that. Now I want to share with you how you can begin to release these patterns. Because if you're feeding into them and you're keeping them alive, that means you can stop feeding the patterns. And over time, they'll go away. So how do you do this? Well, as always, I'm going to recommend meditation. I should literally become a meditation teacher at this point because I feel like I talk about it all the time. But you want to meditate, you want to get into a meditative state. It's a very simple meditation. You've probably done this before, but it's like a letting go. Okay, letting go meditation, very, very popular. One of the most powerful meditations you can do. And when you're in this meditation, I want you to pick one small negative trait or pattern that you have. Don't pick something huge, pick a smaller thing. Maybe you feel a bit shy in certain situations. Maybe you're a bit intimidated by your boss at work or something like that. Just something small, like not something overwhelming. It's important that you work on your micro fears, as I like to say, or micro patterns. Because when you work on the small ones and you resolve them, the big ones seem to just shift themselves. But if you were to try to tackle the big ones head on, I don't think you'll have the capacity for it. It's very difficult to deal with these big things. But you take out the little ones and it's like you're knocking out the foundation of the big ones. So find something small. Then when you're in meditation, I want you to imagine what that feels like, right? When you're feeling a little bit shy or anxious or intimidated, how does that feel in your body? And then I literally just want you to surrender to it. Just surrender to it. Let go. Stop fighting it. Stop following it. Just surrender it. At the beginning, it's probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable because that impulse that you feel that comes up, it wants you to follow it, right? You've been following it. You've been feeding it with your energy for probably decades, that it feels normal and natural to feed your energy into these impulses, right? You've been doing it for so long, your whole system is wired up to do this. But if you can just stay still, stay centered, surrendered, okay, that means your energy is staying with you. Check out my last video where I talked about embodiment meditation, very, very similar. Just keep your energy centered in your body. Every time that pattern comes up and it wants to drag your attention away, surrender, right? Let go. Just let it go, okay? This takes practice and time, but it is very, very effective. Over time, what I found that happens is kind of them old patterns, they kind of start to lose the hold, right? The neurological kind of connections they've formed, I assume, just start to break apart because you're not feeding them with attention and energy anymore. So pick something small, stick with it. After a couple of weeks, it's going to start to release. And when it does release, pick something else, another small thing, and just work on these small fears and patterns that you've got just one by one. Maybe over a 6-month period, you're going to feel very, very different. Another thing I would suggest you do, which I found very helpful, was to direct this new energy into another direction, okay? Because when you break these patterns, you're going to reclaim a lot of energy. It's important you hold on to that energy and become more present, but I also found it helpful to direct that energy in a new direction, okay? Maybe towards some goals, some intentional goals. Instead of you giving that energy away just unconsciously to these habits and patterns that have been running you for so long, consciously choose some goals, right? Human beings are very, very goal-orientated organisms. I didn't realize the extent of this, but we really, truly are. And if you don't use that mechanism for your own self, your own life, other forces, let's say, will use this human impulse, goal-orientated drive for their own means, okay? So set some goals, right? Start to use the new energy to direct you towards them goals, okay? Put better use to that energy. Ultimately, you can just sit with the energy. You can just build it more and more, which is just going to build more and more presence. But I found it helpful, if you want to change your life, to direct it towards some new goals, okay? So that's everything I'm going to talk about. Hope this video helps some of you out. But until next time, God bless.